Hello, my name is Nick Volosin. From time to time, we get calls about our Dräger implementation, so I thought I'd put together this presentation and make it available via on-demand webinar just to go over some of the things, the common things that people ask us on our setup. So here we go. It's about 21 slides, counting this title slide, and do a little bit of demo, jump on some of our VMware servers, and just going to kind of go through it and some tips and tricks we've done. And if you have any questions, the contact information will be at the end on the last slide. And for the agenda items, plan on having to talk about QUI Delta, who we are, our size and whatnot, go over some of the Dräger services we have running on VMware, how we do the linking from Soarian is our main clinical system, but you can use this also from other web-based systems. We have it linked out of our emergency system. Also the Symphony, which lets you view history and some other things that aren't available as the real-time view. And then also the Active Directory import on how with Symphony. So how can you use your existing Active Directory structure for authentication for your nurses and your doctors. Another thing we came up with on implementing, it was the view-only slave unit. So some of the nursing stations wanted to have that, so I have some information on that. And then again, at the end, I'll have some contact information for any follow-up questions. So about QUI Delta, we're 581 licensed beds. There you can see our emergencies visits. We have 9 locations within a 25-mile radius. So as you can see right here, kind of in the middle of California, about 2 hours from the beach and the mountains and LA and San Francisco. So kind of just a central place. We have more cows than people, but it's kind of the breadbasket of the world. So we serve over 500,000 people within our counties that we serve. We have 3,200 employees, but we have 6,500 users, so doctors' offices and all their staff. So we have 6,500 unique user IDs. We use Siemens as our primary health, and there's the website if you want to see more information about our organization. So the next one is why VMware. Some of you may be using VMware for other systems. For us, we find it very flexible on being able to have that pool of resources to bring on systems. But I guess on the bottom line is this last bullet point. So it's really about the high availability and the DRS, which is the Distributed Resource Scheduler. So I have a couple slides on that. We were already a VMware shop with probably about 30% virtualized when we brought on Dräger, and kind of took it on as a challenge when we first were implementing it versus the physical server, as we were looking at how to provide that high availability, which we wouldn't have had with just standalone servers. So being that this is a patient monitoring system, we wanted to leverage the VMware to provide that hardware clustering capability and failover on the event of a hardware failure. So this slide kind of shows what DRS is. So basically in this you have all your redundant links and networking, but on your VMware host servers it allows you to have this balance of your virtual machines, your guests, being able to automatically vMotion over to other hosts so that you can have this balance of power. So you have your CPU and memory is all balanced across your hosts. So that's what DRS provides for you. And so you have some settings where you can tune it how aggressive you want it to be. We kind of have it in the medium moderate range, and I can show you that here. So this is kind of showing our servers here. So we have 13 hosts, and you kind of see how it's balancing the memory and CPU. So they're showing that real time. So in DRS, there are some settings here where we're fully automated, and you can, put the different levels of how you want it. So you could go here and edit, and you can kind of go into this setting here, DRS, fully automated, and we're, so a little beyond the medium. We're more aggressive, but not completely all the way aggressive. So that's where we have it. And so what it will do is periodically it will analyze the different servers. So I just manually told it to go check, but it does this on a scheduled basis, and it's going to go and look to see if there's any servers that maybe are underutilized, and it'll look to move some of the guests, vMotion them over. So it didn't have any recommendations because, again, it does it. We have it doing it all the time. So that's what DRS does for you to balance all your servers. And the other thing we look at, so this view is a very good view, and so as you need to, as you approach some higher memory requirements or CPU, with VMware you're able to just add more hosts. So it's just hardware and some licensing from VMware, but basically that's how it'll add it to the whole pool inside of your cluster. So as you approach memory bottlenecks or CPU bottlenecks, you can just add more resources. So the other thing is HA, so high availability. So in the standalone environment, you wouldn't have this capability of, if you're just putting in standalone Dräger servers. You could have all the redundant power, RAID controller, power supplies and fans and all that. But if you had like a system board failure or another major component, you would have downtime. So with what HA does for you with VMware, so if you actually lose one of your hosts, the VMs that are on that host will automatically, by default, you can choose whether or not you want it to or not, but by default, they would automatically restart on another server. So that's from an unscheduled hardware failure. So this server died, these VMs would automatically start booting up on this other server. Now in a planned mode, if you knew you wanted to do hardware maintenance, you have a bad fan, or you're getting some other memory error or something that's predictive error, you could actually put this in maintenance mode, and it would migrate these real time without any downtime to the users to this other box. You fix your box, take it out of maintenance mode, and then DRS would end up balancing back. So those are some of the features, the main features for healthcare that we really like about VMware. And I can kind of show you a little demo. I can manually fail over just one of the hosts. Not the host, I'm sorry. I'm going to just move like one of the Dräger servers, vMotion, so you can kind of see what that's like and how long that would take. So this is a list of all our guests right there. So it alphabetizes there. You can create groups and folders. There's different views you can have this to organize it. But say here's Dräger 1. We can look at the summary screen, so it kind of shows you here. We assigned it 4 virtual CPUs, 4 gigs of RAM. It'll say what IP address is, because you have the different VLANs for the Dräger. We have it on our regular network and also on the Dräger VLAN, so it can listen to the multicast of the monitors, the patient monitors. So right here you can just right-click, and then you can tell it to migrate. Say you want to change host. This would be change data store if you're moving to a different SAN or LUN. We're just going to move the host. So we kind of pick what the cluster. We can manually pick the server. Next, say what priority, let's leave the default, and finish. And so down here in your task viewer, here task events, it's going to show it the progress of it. And so while you're doing this, it's like you're not going to have any downtime to the user. So see here, we'll do a ping to that server while it's migrating. So it's moving those processes and memory and everything from the one VMware host to another. So it has, we're using all best practice as far as having dedicated vMotion networks that are on the same SAN environment, so that you can switch from host to host and reconnect right to the LUN where the C drives and are located. So just a little one little dropout, but that wouldn't be noticeable to the end user there. And so it looks like it's getting close. And so you can see right here it's showing on the status is on 3. Boom, it just switched to 10 right there on the host. And so it should be, so it's already moved over. It's just going to wait for the task just to show that it's 100% complete. And there it is. It's complete. Let's close that ping there. So that's kind of what vMotion does, kind of moving it from one server to the other. So great for schedule. We actually moved when we were doing our VMware upgrade from 3.5 to 4.1. And actually we added a second SAN. So we moved to about over 300 VM guests from 3.5 to 4.1 and to most of them to the new SAN, and had no downtime. So couldn't have done it without VMware. So with healthcare having that 24/7 availability. So I kind of already showed you this as just kind of a screenshot, of the resources you can apply to a server. So this is our Dräger 1 server. We have 2 of them, or 2 that are web viewers and Symphony servers. So that's just a screenshot for your reference. Again, this is just showing CPU of that same server. So just for reference, so you can see, it's really not a busy server. It's probably more network because it's a gateway. It's kind of just getting the information from listening to multicast, talking to the ICS servers, and passing it on through the web browser. So it doesn't store a lot of information. Just again, it's the web viewer gateway and then the Symphony. So the thing we had to do to get it to work is Dräger uses the hasp USB keys for licensing. So that was actually the original challenge that was proposed to us way back, a couple of years ago. I think it was about 2 years ago. And so Digi makes these boxes that are network USB hubs. And so what you can do is you can actually assign those to guest. So you put this on the network, and then you can have your key there, and that way when it vMotions from different hosts, it'll have that same USB connectivity for that licensing. So you're not actually plugging the key into the physical VMware servers. These are just, you can put these on the network, and here I can show you here. So this is that same Dräger 1 server that I was pinging in and vMotioned earlier. So this USB Anywhere utility, you put that's just the box, that same box right there. That's it. It's IP address and so you have this software that will connect to it, and so that allows it to see just like it's a USB hub on that local server. So go to Device Manager, USB. So you see right there, you see the allowed in USB key, and the Anywhere host controller, so it just acts like a USB hub. So that's the key to making that work. So part of the other challenge of that is when the server boots up, it may not see that key right away fast enough. I don't know if this is an issue also when it's just even on a local physical server. But what we did is we just created a batch file, some kind of old school in that way. But it created this batch file. When it starts up, let me get a drink of water. So when it starts up, we just kind of have it pause for a little bit, try to start the service, pause for a little bit, try to start the service. Just so, there's lots of other scripts you can do this. Either you can do it old school like me, or I'm sure there's some other fancy VBS scripts or something you can do to make sure that the system's up. But this has worked for us for 2 years, where it just tries to start the service. It does, because it doesn't hurt it to start. It'll just say already started. So actually, so if I even just run this, you'll see what it kind of does here. So it just waits those 10 seconds. I think I have it waiting. It does it twice. I think that's the maximum of that little utility, 10 seconds. So it'll go 20 seconds, and it'll say it's already been started. And it just kind of does that a few more times. So that's the utility to connect. So you have to have one of these boxes for each of the Dräger servers that has a license key. You can't share, even though it has 5 ports. It's a one-to-one relationship between this box and the VM guest. So there's a link to the spec sheet from Digi2 if So at the end I have a link to the PDF of this presentation, so you'll be able to get that and you'll be able to click off that PDF. Okay, so next we had a challenge, is that because we have more than 8 ICSs, so the Infinity Central Stations, that's the limit on Symphony, is 8 per ICS, or 8 ICSs per Symphony server. So what we did is we separated our 2 wings. So I have one server servicing one wing, one the other. So in our web viewer, we kind of have this script that will look at for certain units or beds, and it will just kind of redirect it to a web page based upon it. So it's kind of querying, it's getting the medical record number of the patient, querying our MPI SQL database, determining the location of the bed, and then sending it to the right Dräger server link. It just substitutes where it says T server, just either puts Dräger 2 or Dräger 1. So yeah, if you have a person that does web stuff, script, this is, again, I'm old school, so this is old school. This is just regular ASP, VB script stuff. There's, with .NET, there's a lot better ways to do this, but again, this has worked for us for 2 years, and seems pretty good. So here's the link at the top. This is the syntax that the end result needs to be. So you'd have your server name. So in our case, it's Dräger 1 or Dräger 2, and then that, and then you would patient ID, and you'd put whatever you decide to use as your patient ID, whether or not you're using medical record number or visit or account number. So that's what needs to match up, and then you can create a username and password so that it doesn't prompt your end user. So this isn't what we use, but this is an example. You just kind of use a generic one that passes through just to get that real-time view. So that's all it's going to do. So your auditing would be done from your clinical system, that you're accessing the patient first in that system, and then you're just providing a link from within that patient record to get to the real-time view. So this is kind of showing in our Soarian clinical system where we have that. So you would pick a patient, and so this is in a clinical summary of a patient. You'd go to, I think it's called links, patient-specific links, and then we have it labeled as EKG telemetry. And so they click on that, and basically then it'll automatically run that script that I just showed. Let me go back up. It'll run this, hits this script, finds out which server to send it to, sends the user to the link, and it starts showing live patient monitoring. So for Soarian users out there, this is a screen that we've shared, just how we put that, the EKG telemetry. And for ours, because we're hitting it against a script, we're passing this parameter, but if you just had one server, you'd be basically passing the URL would be like that one right there, and instead of where we have MRN, you'd put pad ID. And then depending if you're using medical record number, account number, that you'd change this value. Your clinical ISS people, your IT people should know this tool. This is a desktop admin tool that's part of Soarian. This is where you build all your links to different systems. Okay, so our Symphony setup. So we're on 13 of 21 slides so far. So we're more than halfway. So our Symphony setup, we use the same servers, it's just a different URL. And so that's kind of an example right there. So what we did is, because we have more than 8 ICSs, we present to the users this link and this page, landing page, and then they choose which wing they're going to be in. So we pretty much have our new wing, a Seagull wing, or a Minnow King wing. This is the screen they'll get, login screen. At first it will, just show all the domains that you have in your system, but it will, after you log in the very first time, it does like a cookie, and it will remember the last login domain used. So your users won't have to keep on picking it, because it picks the first one in the alphabet at the very first time. So this is a setup screen within the Symphony. So it kind of shows the IP addresses of the ICSs. there, so you can kind of see once you put in your 8th one, the add button kind of grays out, so you're not able to put more than 8. Permission, so this is what we do, is we have the Symphony users group. It's a local group on the Symphony server, the Dräger server. And so then you can say what permissions they're able to do. So they're able to view the care unit. So we just pretty much have admins and we have users. So if you're a user, you're able to view any unit. We don't do any restrictions by unit, as people transfer and stuff. So any nurse or doctor is able to view any patient on any unit. And so this is kind of showing behind here is the other server, shows the other units. So the important part of that is, I was mentioning, this is a local group on the Dräger server. It's not an Active Directory group. So how do you get all your users? You don't want everyone logged in as the same name. So how do you get all your users to be on those servers? And because for us, it's a lot. It's a lot of nurses, a lot of doctors. So there's utility that was provided for us by our Siemens person for Soarian that they use, part of the integration, and it's called CC copy groups. And so this is the syntax, and what we do is we just tell it basically synchronizes Active Directory group to a local group. So we have a couple groups that we have in our Active Directory that want to make sure that we're always added to the local groups. And I have this link here that kind of has that program and the sample shown up here. So again, this will be in PDF at the end. There'll be a link so that you can get this slide and be able to see all this stuff. So you don't need to write that down. So let me go back to the Dräger server, and I'm going to kind of show you that there, Dräger 1. So here's it's this import users from AD. So there it is right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and run it. And it's kind of going fast, but basically it's just saying user already exists, So it will automatically add the user to that group, the local group. And you can use any of your, whatever your favorite scheduler is. So this is what we're using. We have it running like once a day. So if someone puts in a request to add a new nurse, then in the evening it will add it, and so the next day they'll be able to have access to it. Or if it's urgent, we can just run this on demand. So that it doesn't take very long to run. So that was hundreds of users that copied locally. So actually, if you go here, like manage users, to show you the groups here. So there's Symphony users group. Again, it's a local on the server. It's not on the Active Directory. And there you can see all the different users it's added. So it saves a lot of time not having to go through this utility and add users manually every time a new nurse comes on. So that's a great tip. Very thankful for Mark Legier for sharing that program with us. Okay. The next thing, so we're getting towards the end here, only a few more slides, is slave unit. So after about a year after we were live, we had a lot of the units are on central telemetry. So we have this war room of all the different monitors. So we have the ICSs in the closet. They're connected. The VGA and audio cables are connected to these NTI boxes, or I think sometimes they used to be black boxes, so it just depends on what Dräger set up. That was actually installed by Dräger. And so that just allows you to extend over just Cat5, not Ethernet or IP, just Cat5, to have the ICSs in a different physical location than where the users are sitting. Because sometimes you want to be able to have that, UPSs and emergency power, and not have the heat of those in where the people are. So that works pretty good. So where we have the war room right now, it's probably 100 feet away, where we have the ICSs that feed the war room. So what we had is we had nursing managers, nurse directors that wanted to have a view of that on the nursing station, because before with our old system, we didn't have a central telemetry, so the nurses were used to having that access right at their unit and not necessarily having to wait for a phone call if they wanted to actually see the alarms. So we found these Lantronix spiders. So these are just KVM over IPs, and so you're able to come off of these NTI boxes because they have a video out. And so this just runs on the network. So you just have, it plugs in the VGA, has to use USB for power, so you might have to add a hub just to get some extra USB ports. And what you're able to do is through a web browser, using a Java web browser, you're able to create accounts on the spider where you can create a view-only account. And then the unit secretaries are able to, unit secretaries or nurses, but on the nursing unit, they're able to see the same screen that the central tele is seeing. This also comes in handy because you can have up to 8 simultaneous people on these spiders. So our clinical engineering biomed people can actually use this to access the ICSs and help support the teletechs if there's some kind of issue going on there, since these are Linux boxes. So you're actually just seeing it from like a KVM standpoint. You're not doing like a VNC or any agents that are running on that Linux. You're taking it at the video, the lower level control of the keyboard and mouse, and so this has been working great. We've had this for over a year. We do have a request now. They actually want to have the audio because these NTI boxes will also do audio because they have speakers, to hear the alarms, but they don't have any speakers on these slave units, and these spiders don't do audio. So we're looking at Avocent makes something similar to the spider, so we're looking at that. Or the other thing is there's some other boxes that just do the audio, and we're looking at putting a Y adapter off the ICS and splitting the audio signal from the NTI to this other device and just streaming audio and treat it like its own channel, its own stream, so it'll be separate from the spider device. Actually, I think that will probably work better than trying to replace, because the spider is working great. And with the other device, it only allows one simultaneous user, so we lose that feature of letting the clinical engineering people access the ICSs, and that's been valuable. So the other slide, this last slide before the contact slide, we've been getting questions on is providing access to the Dräger via Apple devices. And so the way we do it is through Citrix. So Citrix receiver, they have it for the iPhone, iPad, Android, any Windows device, Mac devices. So lots of clients, different clients, and so it's not any big magic, but we already had our Citrix environment in place. We were doing it for other things, so it just worked naturally. This is a picture of an iPhone. We had a situation where we had a cardiologist was at Costco and got a call for reading a stat, and while waiting in line at Costco, he was able to just whip out his iPhone and pull it up and make that read. Instead of having to wait to get back to his office and use this full-blown PC or wait for a fax copy. So it's come in very handy. We can do that. We do with X-rays too. So not for final reads or anything like that, but it's provides that access anywhere for our physicians. So that's my presentation. So this is the information. So here's the link. I'll leave it up there for a little bit. It's got a little cryptic number, but that's the link for this PDF, and so it would have all the other links inside that PDF. And also here's my contact information. So there's my email. You can follow me on Twitter. I try to tweet only business kind of healthcare related stuff on that. So talking a lot about virtualization, a lot of VMware, a lot of Citrix, things that are going on with healthcare in the IT space, but definitely don't tweet a lot of spam, so don't need to worry about that. There's my desk number, so feel free to call me or work through your either Dräger representative or your Siemens representative. I'd be happy to go into anything deeper, but again, you can contact me directly too. I hope you have a nice day. Thanks.